This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing. Two to go in the Porsche Pro qualifying series on iRacing and the iRacing Esports Network. Coverage brought to you by RaceBots TV. And the 8th round of the championship heads ourselves over to Canada. So welcome to Canadian Tires Motorsports Park, welcome to Mossport, and welcome to the penultimate round of the championship. Conor Maddock and Jack Stiles will be doing the call in just one moment's time, but of course, we have got ourselves here a championship. Fredrik Rasmussen is leading the way right now by about 300 points over Max Benecke, just under 300 points. Then you got yourself in third place, Jeremy Bootsloop, fourth place on Heinrich, and fifth place, Patrick Holtzman. These drivers that I just mentioned, they've almost certainly punched their ticket to the 2019 Porsche World Championship Series, which will be here live in iRacing. But there's these guys in the middle of the pack that I want to pay attention to. Everyone from Enzo Benito in P number 17, Moritz Lohner, David Williams, Marin Kolak. And then the drivers on the outside looking in, Alexander Feeb, Trumat, Graham Carroll, and Sebastian Dunkel and David Decor. They are looking to race their way into this series. We've got ourselves about 10 seconds left of qualifying. Let's hand it over to Conor Maddock and to Jack Stiles.
30 seconds left until we get going here, Will, as the drivers will set themselves to your starting grid. Is Sebastian Job pole position with Benecke also on that front row? I'm going to have to go very quick with this one. Franjak third, Phil Sell lines up fourth with Alexander Voss in fifth, Graham Carroll sixth, Niels Koch, Heinrich Zelensky, and Ricardo Castroledo will cycle through your top 10. With 5 seconds to go here, you have Williams, Nowakowski, Dunkel, Feeb, Hewlett, Eriksson, Guven, Burton, Kolak, Cedric, Lohner, and Sanchez, all in that order. And that is just in time because we're green flag racing here at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Sebastian Job getting himself off to a good start. An early challenge for P number 2 coming in for Camel Franchak as he searches for the inside line over Maxim Benecke as they come through up towards the second corner for the first time here. Instantly single file, a little bit of argy-bargy in the back of the field though. Graham Carroll having a bit of a moment but able to recover as they'll storm themselves down towards Quebec. There's been an incident at the back of the field. That is Dunkel taking a trip through the grass. There's yet more cars involved in this one as well. David Williams is around. Now Kowski has found the wall also, and Alexander Feeb is going for a grass cutting exhibition as well. And there's even more carnage going on because Hewitt has spun towards the grass. All of these are names, Jack, that are desperate to get themselves inside of that top 20.
And they are drivers who need points at this stage in the championship and need to get the good results. However, with just 2 weeks to go, it's not the kind of form they want. Jake Hewlett is back running, bringing himself out of Moss corner onto the back straight. However, a long way down the field and with a quite substantial amount of damage to that number 15 machine. We did see at the start, of course, this incident between Sebastian Dunkel and David Williams heading themselves into turn number 2. That just looks like Sebastian Dunkel was a little bit later on the brakes, ran into the back of Williams. Nothing that Williams could do, so another unfortunate incident there. A very chaotic first lap, which some of these drivers would be very happy to say that they've survived.
Yeah, exactly. Maximilian Benecke, though, at the front of the field. As we see the tail end of that replay coming up through towards the first sector. You can just see how desperate some of these drivers are to get themselves further up the field, get themselves some good points, and I think you can just pin the blame on Sebastian Dunkel there, running straight into the back of the VRS Sim sports car of David Williams ahead of him, and that caused problems further down the line. Returning back to the live pictures then, Valtteri number 4 up here with Alexander Voss. You've got Jared Filsell lining up behind him with Niels Koch, as well as the entire front of the field, all stacked together right now with seemingly no end in sight. So these guys have done very, very well in that on that opening lap. All the incidents happened behind them.
Yes, the leading pack really doing an awesome job. We're looking at the filtering through the rear end of the field now. The front end of the pack very close up at the front, and it just looks as though they're trying to either get themselves a gap, get themselves into single file racing, and that seems to look as though what they're doing. You can see Sebastian Job up the front of the field with Maximilian Benecke behind. This is going to be a battle we're going to have to watch all race long, because Max Benecke, he will want that win if he can get one, but Sebastian Job, that win will be very, very helpful for him and the points that he needs.
Yep, exactly. These guys are very, very healthy in terms of the point situation, getting themselves qualified into that iRacing Porsche World Championship. Sebastian Job, well, he is currently 9th in the standings, has a good couple of points advantage over that cut line. Same with Maximilian Benecke. Franjak is pretty comfortable as well. So these guys are not worrying about getting themselves their ticket into that big World Championship series. The drivers that are, though, are a little bit further back. Graham Carroll up in P7 right now. Needs a good points haul. He's currently in P20, so if every single iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series driver takes an invite, he would be the last driver to actually get a ticket into that series. So he is still very much on the edge of being in or out.
Absolutely, for sure, but that's obviously bearing in mind that everything stays as it is over the next sort of 10 days or so as we head towards the end of this series. And I think that's got to be important, is that Graham Carroll really needs to make sure that, okay, he's here at the moment, but he's still within that top 20. He's had a good few performances the last few weeks, Connery, although his start of the season was really where he lost a lot of time.
Yeah, exactly. Just trying to recover from here on forwards. Getting some good results here in the last 2 rounds of the season will definitely help secure him in that $100,000 prize pool situation. But as these guys head their way around on towards lap number 4 in this sort of situation, it's really a track here, Jack, that you can't really go side by side through very many of these corners, because all but, I would argue, 2 of them are high-speed corners where the car is on the absolute limit of grip. So trying an outside line around some of these curves is not going to be helpful. But Alexander Voss has made a mistake, and it'll be Jared Filsell battling him on the exit of Moss corner. So that's turn number 6, just ahead of this battle that we have been watching between Cholak and Sedgwick. These guys also on that cut line, so important points needing to be gained by those guys side by side down the straight towards turn number 8. Then Carroll around the outside, Niels Koch defending on the inside line, coming through turn 8 up towards turn number 9 as well. These guys all just jostling for position. We'll get a replay up on screen for you now. Well, we had a replay up on screen for you with the move between Jared Filsell and one of the Williams Esports drivers down the inside at what is turn 5 and 6, so main overtaking opportunity.
As we are back to live pictures looking at this battle, still the driver Alexander Voss on the tail of Jared Filsell. Filsell is quite safe in the points, currently sitting P5 as I can see it, but running on board with Graham Carroll, he's going to want a few more positions, a few more extra points he can get. Alexander Voss, though, very, very strong driver, and for Carroll, he is in a Williams Esports sandwich. So the car ahead and the car behind are the same team, so these two guys might work together to try and get themselves a little bit further forward in the field.
Yeah, that could definitely potentially be the plan, but as it is right now, they're both, well, secure inside the top 10 in this particular race, and Koch and Henrich are pretty comfortable in the points as well. Carroll, in amongst this group, is one of the ones that definitely is not, though. But here comes Alexander Voss, maybe sizing up for a move on towards Filsell into turn 8. But that's such a difficult point in the point on the course to try and make a pass. This track, if you just deviate from your line just one little bit, then that's going to ruin your rhythm throughout the whole of the sector. That first sector especially, where you have the long first corner, long second corner, long third corner, changes of direction. It's all about the optimal line.
And it is the optimal line that these drivers are trying to look for, of course. The elevation changes do not make it easy here at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, and it's one of those It's one of those circuits which drivers really have to tame. As I said last week, it's not a circuit that's used very often. For some of these drivers, it might be one of their very first times running in anger around this circuit, Connery, and that could be adding to the challenges. Riding on board with Lauren Heinrich on the rear end of his Williams Esports teammates Niels Koch. Those two looking like they're not going to try and make a move. However, Graham Carroll is very, very close as Alexander Moss makes a mistake. There's going to be contact between Carroll and two of the Williams Esports cars on their roof.
Oh, the Williams Esports machines have gotten themselves in yet another major incident this season. Replay up on screen for you now. You can just see how desperate Graham Carroll is for points. Going down the inside at turn number 6. Door was left open, but not a lot of space to work with. We'll see it up on the replay for you now. You can see Carroll there, in and amongst the Williams Esports drivers, dives down towards the inside turn number 6 because the door was definitely left open, but then there was contact, door-to-door contact coming off the corner, spinning Voss, well, not completely spinning Voss, but slowing him down enough that both of his teammates behind had to try to avoid, and that was also Lauren Henrich going for an absolute ride as well, so that is basically the triple kill there in terms of Williams Esports machines.
Yeah, that was every single, most of the, in fact, actually, I think every single Williams Esports machine in the field, essentially, apart from Moritz Lohner, involved in that instance. So that's taken a good portion of that team out of this race today. But Graham Carroll, that has played into his hands just slightly. He has got a couple of positions. Behind him is Ricardo Castrolado for VRS Coanda SimSport. Castrolado, of course, has had his fair share of bad luck throughout this series. But today, looking like he might have a little bit of front damage, but he's still piling the pressure onto Graham Carroll.
Yeah, he is, and Graham Carroll might just have just maybe the slightest bit of damage. I'm not seeing much in terms of the bodywork to the front end of that machine, but the rear end of that machine, the left rear wheel arch is quite beaten up, so he might just be feeling the effects of that, not just in the straight line speed, of course, but in terms of the balance of the car as well, is an important thing you have to consider once you incur just a little bit of damage. But having a look at the front of the field, then Sebastian Job trying to break away from not the only Mr. 10K iRacing anymore, because Freddie Rasmussen has joined that exclusive club, but 10K iRacing nonetheless, Maximilian Benecke, and Sebastian Job is doing a very, very good job of keeping him at bay at this moment in time.
Yeah, everything looking like it's pretty good for Max Benecke at the moment. Sebastian Job, that gap has pulled out about 6/10 over the last half a lap, and that does mean for Benecke, he's looking strong, although the pressure from behind from Kamil Franjak is probably what's letting Sebastian Job get away, and the more time that this happens, the better. 20 minutes remaining now in this event. We are 1/3 distance, and that just means that for Sebastian Job, that little bit more security is what he is going to want.
Yeah, it's just a case of extending the gap all the way up the front. The gap's up to 1.4 seconds, so Job has gained a ton of time over this last lap. That was due to a mistake from Maximilian Benecke coming through the first sector that has put him slightly under threat from the car behind of Kamil Franjak, as we'll continue to ride on board with him up and towards the end of this lap. We can get that rear view camera up, and you can see how close Kamil Franjak is right onto that rear bumper. So Benecke going to be feeling the pressure, but he's one of those veterans of these GT cars. I don't think he's going to be phased at all.
No, and for Max Benecke, this is more of his comfort zone. He's very, very experienced, as you just said. So he's very much going to be trying, looking back further to the field at Alejandro Sanchez and Moritz Lohner. They're going to go side by side into turn number 2. Lohner with the inside line and primarily the more advantaged line, but the number 13 machine of Sanchez still fighting back side by side through Quebec corner. And I think this is where Moritz Lohner's just going to give out a little bit and let Sanchez have the position.
Yeah, well, Lohner was leading across the line, so I understand is managing to gain that position back. Lohner looking maybe for an inside move up into turn 5. This is the slowest point on the circuit, as you have to slam on the anchors of turn 5 uphill as well, and then get back to that throttle because you have a long run out of turn 7 all the way down to turn 8. And Lohner, he's going to have to look in his rear view mirror here because Jake Burton, that big green Porsche behind, is waiting and stalking. Not going to go for the move just yet with 18 minutes remaining in this race, but Burton's not a name that I have seen all that often in this series. Looking to make his mark, started in P18 up to P14, so hasn't done a bad job so far.
And he's a driver who's 29th in the position for the championship, Connery. So he's quite a long way down, still 9 positions off the top 20 cusp. And I think that's going to be important for him. If he can get some good points today, that could push him up quite a number of positions, currently on 1,500 points. Bearing in mind that 20th position is on looking at about 1,900 points, so it's still a little bit of a difference, about 400 points between those two drivers. That's the important part that we need to be looking at. The further Jake Burton is, even if he doesn't get into the top 20, he still has a chance. Back though to the race, looking at the live pictures of Kim Eriksson in the number 21.
Yeah, full of Vieresco and Simsport, at least on his front end right now. Ricardo Castroledo trying to defend from him. There's a car very, very close ahead as well. That's going to be one of the only Williams eSports cars left in this race. That's Niels Koch. So it's basically Loner and Koch that have been left out there for all intents and purposes. Down towards turn number 8 now, and still the status quo will be maintained. It's so difficult to overtake.
And it is so difficult to overtake because Moritz Lohner's just ride on Alejandro Sanchez into the S's, and the move wasn't able to be done. So even some of the best drivers in GT racing on iRacing cannot get any moves completed because of how difficult it is to pass it. And I think that is going to be really, really important to see. Looking back from Alejandro Sanchez now towards the driver of Moritz Lohner, and we can see behind Jake Burton still looking to make a move, although there's just no way that he can get his nose into the inside of a corner. Once he does that, he's only got to get good grip on the exit of a corner, and he's pretty much got a position.
Yeah, that seems to be the case. The driver from the land down under, Jake Burton, of course not the only person from that area of the world in this race. We have Jared Filsell up in P4. Burton, though, making some good progress here right at the back of the field, but he has a little bit of a roadblock ahead of him as Lohner tries to work his way up through the field as well. Has done a very good job in doing so far, up 8 positions for the day. That is not actually your biggest mover in this race so far. That is tied between Jack Cedric and Alejandro Sanchez, both up 10 positions. We have had to change for position further up, though, because Graham Carroll has managed to make his way by Niels Koch here, coming towards the end of the lap. We'll get a replay up on screen for you in just a couple of moments' time. Here it comes to see exactly how that one was done. On the end of the back straight, then, it might be the plan of attack here for Graham Carroll. Looking for the inside, maybe looking for the outside. Let's see what he does. He follows very close before making his decision. Committing to driver's left-hand side, outside line. That is a fantastic pass there from Carroll, whichever way you cut it.
Yeah, that was an absolutely brilliant pass from Graham Carroll. Just timed it to perfection. And Niels Koch now, he's got to do all the work with the pressure from Ricardo Castroledo behind. Castroledo, we know, is a hard racer. So for Niels Koch, he really has got his work cut out. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, live timing and scoring is available. Head yourselves over to RaceBot.tv/timing. So for the remaining 15 minutes in this race, you can track your favorite drivers.
Yes, you can. And, well, if you're a fan of Niels Koch and the Williams eSports team, then, well, I have news for you. He's going for the move back over Graham Carroll, side by side between the two drivers, then down into turn 8. So close, coming onto the brakes into there. And here comes the opportunistic move from Castroledo, sliding through turn 8, pointing in the wrong direction. You can see exactly what Castroledo was trying to do, but unfortunately, it did not pay off.
Castroledo was going for a gap that was always going to close. Replay is up on your screen. Riding on board with the Frenchman now. We can see Niels Koch going to the outside of Graham Carroll, heading themselves down the back straight towards the S's. Still side by side in corner entry. Koch gets a bad entry to the corner. Just the slightest bit of contact. Castroledo goes round. And just to rub the salt in the wound even more, as he went through the final corner, he spun and hit the wall again.
Oh, we didn't quite see that, but that is just a situation that has gone from bad to worse there for Ricardo Castroledo. So he is going to be bringing that car down on towards the lane, I believe. Yes, he is down in his pit box and likely won't actually take any further part in this race. It is a sprint race, of course, so you don't really have enough time to get repairs done to your car and still be in with a shot at getting a good points haul. So that is very unfortunate for him, returning to his unfortunate form that he had earlier on in the season with getting himself involved in incidents. But let's hope for him that he has a very competent final round so he can get himself more firmly secured inside of that top 20, or at least close to it. But Jared Filsell, though, is the driver that we're on board with. Meanwhile, the Carroll and Coach battle is still going, mind you. That is absolutely crazy. These guys have been stuck together like glue for pretty much the entirety of this race. But Filsell, he's currently quietly trying to work on the cars ahead of him right now. Cameron Franjak would be the first target, but he's about half a second down the road right now. So he needs a couple more laps to be able to work that one out. But Carroll and Kosh, they are almost nose to tail again.
They are indeed, and that is going to be very interesting as they head themselves into turn number 4. Down the hill. Still looking at Jared Filsell. Jared Filsell last time around, actually, Connery. He was just that little bit quicker than Cameron Franjak, and I think that is going to be important heading into the final few moments of this race.
If you want to catch up with more iRacing action, then of course subscribe to the iRacing Esports Network YouTube page, and of course give us a cheeky little follow on the Twitch as well while you are at it. Fantastic broadcast from us here at Raceport TV, and of course our friends at GSRC, CM SimSpeed TV, and a good number of others as well. That that list just keeps adding to week on week, so it's kind of hard to keep track. But either way, there is a base standard for broadcasts here on the iRacing service, and all those broadcasters adhere to that. Though, battle for the race lead, then Sebastian Job and Maximilian Benecke. That is starting to come down bit by bit by bit. Benecke working on the gap, but with 11 and a half minutes to go, this is seemingly unlikely for the German against the Brit.
And I have a feeling that Maximilian Benecke, he looking at, as we do have an incident, the number 20, the number 11 cars, 2 of those cars involved. One of those is Marin Cholak. Replay up, so let's find out what happened here. Heading themselves through turn number 1, 3 wide into turn 1. Yeah, that's always going to end well, isn't it? Seems as though everyone survived turn 1, which is surprising, I must admit. Cholak's had the inside into turn number 2. And there's the contacts. And that was obviously from behind. I think that might have been from the number 12, so Moritz Lohner.
Yeah, Lona running into the back of him, so we'll get that view from up above again. Down in towards turn number 2, see Lona just mistimes it, trying to cut back in line, and arguably he wouldn't have had that much space because Burton was also following very, very close behind as well. Somehow Burton gets through of that by the skin of his teeth, despite the little bit of contact with Lona that he made. Not so lucky, though, for Alexander Thieb in the Pure Racing team car behind, though. On that inside, just gets clattered by the Williams Esports car, trying to get itself, pointing in the right direction. But has taken out 4 more drivers in this event. So the rate of attrition here has been absolutely terrible, and arguably you can see why, because most of the drivers that have been involved in these incidents, Jack, are those drivers that are close to being in or out.
And they really are the ones who are fighting for positions, because the guys at the front, at this point, they haven't got much to lose. The guys in the midfield and back, they do. They really have got everything to lose at this point. So it's a case of going all or nothing. And that is what we're seeing today. And for some of these drivers, it's just a little bit too much. Looking at Alexander Thieb, you can see the amount of damage on that number 20 machine. Jake Hewlett behind, who's the VRS Coanda SimSport driver that we can see.
Pushing Carroll.
From Alexander Thieb, but Graham Carroll, Niels Koch, this is a battle heading into the S's that's getting very tense now.
Exactly. I mentioned it a little bit earlier. They haven't been separated by more than a 1/10 of a second over the past couple of laps. You can just see the battle into turn 8 that time. Carroll able to come out on top in that particular defense, but Niels Koch in the late stages of this race have started to come alive. Of course, if you remember back, it was Carroll that was the driver that got past Koch, but Koch having a little bit of a new lease of life here, able to lock onto the back of Carroll's Porsche ahead of him and really give him a hard time indeed. And through Quebec corner, it's obvious to see who the fastest driver is. It is Koch at this stage.
It is, and that is important. Graham Carroll has now got to be very careful of which lines he takes through each corner, because just one slip up could allow Niels Koch to get himself through, heading themselves through Moss Corner now. Graham Carroll running very, very clean lines. That's what he needs to do. Good run out onto the back straight as they head themselves under the Mobil 1 bridge. But Carroll going defensive, taking to one side of the track, cutting over back to the other, trying to break the draft from Niels. And for Niels Kosh, it just seems to be at the moment, it might be not enough as they head into the S's this time. Also, watch out for Kim Eriksson behind. He started 16th, currently running in 7th position, so he's hungry for points as well. Today, for the driver of Kim Eriksson, could be very, very helpful in his championship run.
It definitely would be. Across the line onto lap number 18. We have 7 minutes and 45 seconds to sort the differences out there on track. Niels Koch trying to extract revenge, perhaps is the phrase I'll use, over Graham Carroll for getting that pass done a little bit earlier on, but Carroll's holding strong for the moment, and I have to stress for the moment, because at least through the first sector, Koch has been the faster driver. It's just Carroll has been faster where it matters, and that is coming on the exit of 3 and then the run down towards 5, which is the main overtaking opportunity, and the exit of 6 as well, able to get that traction down. Let's see if this is the case then, up through turn 6 this time. Carroll is so quick on the throttle, able to get a decent gap come the exit of the corner, but Niels Koch, by virtue of being inside that slipstream all the way down this very long run, all the way from 7 to 8, is going to draw himself pretty close here into 8. Looks to the outside line, going to have to go very deep on the brakes, but not committing to anything just yet. This is good defensive driving right now from Graham Carroll, but how long can he hold up? Because there's also Kim Eriksson looking to get himself involved in this battle. He's definitely holding up Koch here.
And the lap times this time around show that the driver of Niels Koch is just... Actually, you can't even split Graham Carroll and Niels Koch on lap times, because the difference is 0.02 of a second. There is no separating these guys. But then you can look at it this way. That Kim Eriksson's quicker than Niels Koch, but you could also argue that Niels Koch is indeed being held up by Graham Carroll, and Carroll's just got, he's doing everything to defend, because you can see him now as Koch looking to the inside into the S's. No, he can't do it.
Carroll has a very nervous car indeed coming through that first sector, and it shows. Niels Koch, his car is a lot more planted, a lot more stable coming through there. Carroll, of course, he is dealing with a little bit of rear-end damage. That could be affecting the balance of the car coming through that sector, causing it to be a little bit more twitchy than it otherwise would be. Koch looking for the outside. Does he dive for it? No, he does not for now. But the thing is, sooner rather than later, Kim Eriksson in this battle is also going to get a little bit impatient and start to make his own moves as well. So Niels Koch, just for self-preservation, needs to make this move. Almost shows the bumper coming up through the final turn. Here, the battle for the race lead is getting, well, spreading out right now. So Sebastian Job edging out that gap, but the battle for P5 is all where it's at.
It is, and I'm looking at it from Kim Eriksson's point of view. I think he's got the best view of anyone watching this battle at the moment, because he's also sat there thinking, if anything happens to these two, I'm in prime position to just slip my way through. 3-2 positions, more 3 points. As very close to the rear of Graham Carroll comes Niels Koch. You almost got a little bit of an insight of the Michelin sticker on the front of that Williams eSports machine, just showing how close these two drivers are. Niels Koch is really closing the gap. We can see that he's visibly faster at this point, because he was over a 10th quicker than Graham Carroll last time around. However, he still can't get past.
Here we go. This is the run that Niels Koch needs. Look at him bringing up almost to the back bumper, then outside line being chosen for turn 8. Drag race all the way down the back straight here. Niels Koch has the advantage with the cleaner car, of course, and going to be a little bit less drag on that car as a result, but Carroll holding strong on that inside line, not allowing Niels Koch an inch to try and make his way by. Very close to the final sector. We'll come across the line with 4 minutes remaining, around about 4 laps as well. Niels Koch outside line for turn 1, cuts back to the inside, looks to the inside through turn 1, but the thing is, Carroll is covering all bases. Forget about the Trulli train, it's the Carroll train.
The Carroll train is quite clearly alive, and obviously Niels Koch trying to stamp his ticket out of said train, although at the moment still can't get it to work. Heading themselves through turn number 3. still looking, still sticking behind Graham Carroll, running actually more or less identical lines, almost trying to wait for him to slip up under pressure through turn 4. Up the hill they go into the braking zone. Carroll going defensive on the inside. Niels Kosh, though, still looking. Watch out for Kim Eriksson behind now, Connery, because Eriksson, when this is happening, is closing the gap faster and faster.
Yeah, exactly. Kim Eriksson ready and waiting to pounce if these guys come together. Coach might have another chance here coming through turn 8. It is going to be side by side, but can Coach complete the move this time? Look at how deep on the brakes he goes through turn 8, leaves the door open, trying to find momentum, trying to wrestle the inside line away from 9, and he can't make it. So the final corner will arrive, and with still Carroll ahead, but here comes the run out in the final corner for Coach. Looks to the inside, outside. He doesn't even know where to go at this point because Carroll is everywhere.
And Carroll is all over the racetrack defending, trying to make that car as wide as possible to stop Niels Koch even getting a nose beside him. How he's been able to hold off the challenges into the S's lap after lap after lap, I will never know. He's got just 2.5 laps to hold on to this one now, Connery. Although I don't think he's going to be able to do it, because with every lap, Niels Koch gets closer and closer. Bring into this battle Bobby Zelensky. Bring into this battle Jack Sedgwick. Bring into this battle Alejandro Sanchez. We've got a 6-car train for 5th.
Yeah, exactly. Update on the race lead, still around half a second. Beneke not able to make all that many inroads on Sebastian Job, even though he is gaining the tail end of the draft. So that one might not be over just yet. Gap is actually down to 0.4 of a second. So bit by bit, Beneke is gaining, but it might not just not be enough. He only has a couple of laps to go to sort this one out. Battle for P3 as well. Franjak and Phil Sell is one that we have to talk about. So whichever place on this racetrack, wherever you look, there is going to be battling coming towards the end of this race. I'll try my best to try and keep on top of it. We're looking at 2 laps to go here in the penultimate round. Sebastian Job, he is actually heading his way up towards the middle of the lap. So this will be confirmed. 2 laps to go here. This can go either way in pretty much all of these battles right now, Jack.
Yeah, no one really knows what is going to happen. Of course, everything just looking as though they're everyone trying to get those final few positions that they might need going into next week. Bobby Zelensky, he's been taken out of the battle for 5th position, sorry, because he made a mistake at 5 and through turn 5 and 6 last time around as they head themselves back to those same section of corners. We look back to your race lead where Sebastian Job is still leading Maximilian Beneke by just over half a second, but Beneke is closing and closing fast.
Yeah, he is 0.4 of a second this time. Kosh, he's getting close, but he's simply not close enough to Carroll right now. We're on board with Phil Sell and Franjak, which is not the closest battle right now because we've got Kosh and Carroll still very close. Count Eriksson in this. Meanwhile, side by side behind them because Sedgwick and Sanchez are deciding to duke it out here at the end of the race up through the final corner. Got Sanchez and actually binned it in towards the tyre barriers in the final corner. He's going to be out of this event. We'll see a very short replay of what has happened here. You can see him battling side by side with the driver of what was going to be Jack Sedgwick, but he's not going to be able to actually that's actually Sanchez and Dunkel, excuse me, that were battling in that sort of situation. But on the final lap then, gap between the race leaders 5/6 of a second. Unfortunately, I don't think that one's going to happen. Franjak and Phil Sell are closer, yes, but Phil Sell has not been too aggressive over these past couple of laps. We'll still ride on board with Beneke though because Job could possibly make a mistake coming up towards these final couple of corners. This is the view though for the battle for P5. Carroll still leading the train from Koch, from Eriksson, from Sedgwick, and Carroll, he has got a buffer zone right now. But back towards your race lead because Sebastian Job has held on here through the final corner. It's yet another win for G2 Esports. Yet another win for Sebastian Job against Maximilian Beneke as well. Fantastic stuff for him. But meanwhile, battle for P number 5 because Carroll, against the odds, has held on to a top 5 finish. Just take a bow, Graham Carroll, because that was a ton of pressure at the end from Koch and Co.
I am not sure how Graham Carroll was able to hold on to get that top 5 position. That is a brilliant finish for him. Some really good points for his championship standings. Nils Kosh did everything to try and get past, but whatever he did, Graham Carroll was one step ahead.
Yeah, that was some of the best defensive driving I have seen in a very, very long time. And it seemed like in those final 2 laps of the race, Kosh just ran out of momentum. He just tried everything and was just consigned to finish in 6th place. I can definitely understand that view, but Carroll just absolutely making that Porsche as wide as the Canadian Tire Motorsports circuit there. But here are your finishing results. Sebastian Job winning out from Maximilian Benecke, and then we'll get to see Kamil Franjak on the podium once again. He just seems to be always the bridesmaid there in that P number 3. He's got so many P number 3 so far this season. Jared Filsell with a very good finish up in P4, and we've already mentioned Graham Carroll up in P5 with a very hungry pack of wolves behind him. Niels Kosh, Kim Eriksson, Jack Sedgwick, Zelensky, and Burton there, rounding out your top 10. And then you see some of the drivers at the back of the field that won't be very, very happy with what has happened today. The likes of Dunkel, the likes of Sanchez, you've got Jake Hewlett, you've got Alexander Thieb, Alexander Voss, Marin Cholak, Moritz Lohner, Ricardo Castroledo, Lauren Henrich, Ayan Guven, David Williams, and David Nowakowski. All drivers that are pretty close to going out in terms of getting themselves a qualification into the World Championship Series, all having terrible, terrible races. So for them, it's all going to come down to that final race of the season, Jack. That is the clutch point.
Sebring next week is really going to be where these drivers have to prove their worth to be able to qualify for the Porsche World Championship Series. And that is going to be, I think, where we see every single driver in the field who needs to get their handbags out and fight for every position.
Yes, they do. That is going to be it in terms of the race here on Race Sport TV, streaming live on the iRacing Esports Network. But join us just after this because we have the post-race show. Until then, see you then.
The yellow flag is out. Pit road is now open. Keep your eye on those gauges. We'll give you 4 tyres. 3, 2, 1, now.